right, in this lesson, the very first lesson, we are going to talk about circles, but specifically we're going to talk about the circumference. So your first learning target is going to be, I can find the circumference of a circle. So when we talk about circumference, we are going to talk about around the circle. You know that you will know this when you can solve this problem here. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these examples. So let's talk about what circumference is and what this looks like. So parts of a circle, first of all. This is something you've learned before, but let's talk about this some more. So we have different parts of a circle. We have, it says a circle may be specific parts including, we have the radius, which is the distance from the center of the circle outward, and it can go in any direction. Try to get this into a straight line here. So you start in the center, you go out, it can go any direction. This is called the radius. Okay, feel free to pause this at any time. Some of these things are new to you. We have a straight line that passes through the center of the circle and has two endpoints, which means it can go from one end of the circle, it goes through the center to the other end of the circle. It's kind of like cutting your pizza in half. This is called the diameter. Okay. And then last but not least, we have the distance that's around the circle. This is what we're going to be finding. That's this distance here. That's if I was to cut the circle open and lay it flat, that would be the circumference. When I talk to students about this, I generally explain like a pizza. Let's say we're going to do a stuffed crust pizza. That's how much cheese you would put in the crust of the edge of the pizza if you've ever had a stuffed crust pizza. That's how much tire goes around the bicycle. So let's look at this. All right. Mike and his friends work at a tire factory. The factory manufactures several different size tires for different vehicles. We're going to fill out the table below to show the diameter and the circumference of the tire related. Okay? So what's going to happen is if we set up our ratio like we talked about before, let's see, our diameter is going to be our x and our circumference is our y because we're talking circumference. X is what we put into it, y is what we get out of it if we had a formula. So since we don't, we're going to be using this right here, y divided by x. So we're going to take our circumference, our y, and we're going to divide it by x. So we're going to take, they took 43.96, they divided it by 14. So let's go ahead and do that in our calculators. When you do that, you should get about 3.14. Okay. That's a toddler bike. Now, if we talk about a bike, we take, the circumference of the circle, so 56.52, and we divide it by the diameter, 18, and plug that into our calculators, we will get 3.14. Okay, I want you to go ahead and pause here. I want you to try the last two. Remember, y divided by x, circumference divided by diameter. Okay, hopefully you noticed that you got 3.14 for each of those when you take the distance around the tire, that's the circumference, and you divide it by the diameter, which is the distance across the tire. You get 3.14 each time. So, let's go ahead and fill this in down here. What pattern do you notice regarding the circumference? Okay, so circumference divided by diameter is equal to, it's approximately 3.14, and 3.14 is actually pi. 3.14 is pi approximated. We all know that pi goes on and on and on forever, so we will be using the approximation for pi. Okay, so now that we found that, let's talk more about circumference. We found out what happens with our circumference, our diameter. Let's talk more about the circumference itself. Okay, circumference of a circle is the distance around it. And here are the formulas. And we have two. We have C is equal to pi, or 3.14. It depends on how it asks. We're going to use 3.14 times the diameter. Or we have C is equal to 2 pi times the radius. Because we know that the radius, 2 radius, is actually equal to diameter. So, and then we talked about 3.1, pi can be approximated to 3.14. We'll be using that. When you get to high school, you'll end up using pi and rounding correctly. Okay, so let's talk about this radius and diameter. You can use either formula. You can pick one and stick with it, but you do have to adjust accordingly. My suggestion is to look at your picture and decide what you have, radius or diameter, and then what you want to use. Here is my radius, right? It's half. This would be a diameter, and then this would be a radius. Okay, so being able to recognize those is the most important part first. If you just do 3.14 times the diameter, that works. You just have to know that you need a second radius here. So this is actually 12. You got to go all the way across for your diameter. Okay, so let's talk about if we were just using the radius and diameter here. So if this is r, I'm going to use C is equal to 2 times pi times r. Then we're going to plug in values. Let's find the formula of each, since we've already talked about this. Since this is a diameter here, I'm going to use C is equal to pi times the diameter. And this very last one down here is the radius again. C equals to pi times the radius. So you pick one of the formulas depending on if you have the radius or diameter. Okay, from there we're going to plug in. We're going to plug these values in. All right, so C is equal to 2 times 3.14 for pi. So we're always, for pi here, we're always going to use 3.14 in 7th grade here. Occasionally directions will tell you otherwise, just read them. My radius here is 6, so then times 6. We plug that into the calculator. Now, here's the thing. If the answer says in terms of pi, you are going to take these two numbers and multiply them 12, and then I leave pi in my answer. But when we're looking for circumference and we're using pi, we're going to take 2 times 3.14 times 12 in our calculator. Pausing so you're trying it. And we get 37.68. And since it's circumference and we're measuring just around, it's inches. No little numbers with it. We're just measuring around the circle, like how much cheese goes in that pie crust. Okay, so that's if we have the radius. If we have the diameter here, we're going to go C is equal to, we'll go 3.14 times our diameter, which is 14. Okay, in terms of pi, all you're going to do here is do the number, the diameter, times pi. And over here, it was that same thing. If I went all the way across, this right here is actually 12. That's where the 12 pi comes from, because you double the 6. Okay, now 3.14 times 14 is going to give me 43.96, and we're in centimeters here. Okay, I want you to go ahead and pause, and I want you to try setting this last one up. Okay, now that you've paused and hopefully you've tried to set it up yourself, let's go ahead and talk about it. So we're going to go C equals 2 times 3.14 times my radius is 3.5. And if I want it in terms of pi, I'm going to take 2 times 3.15, times 3.5, which is 7, and this becomes 7 pi. You just throw the pi in there. But now if I'm looking for an answer here, I'm going to do 2 times 3.14 times 3.5, and that becomes 21.98, and then this is meters. Okay, so there you have it. That is finding circumference using the radius or diameter. Okay, so now I'd like you to try this problem on your own, like pause it and try it before you watch me. Now, here's the thing. Please pause. Please try as many of these as possible. Play, pause as you go. Maybe something clicks as you're going, and then you can go ahead and pause it and finish the problem if you didn't quite get the part that you were thinking. Okay, I will read it to you first. A Ferris wheel travels in a circular motion. We know it goes round and rounds. And measures 40 meters from the top car to the bottom car. So let me clarify that. They're saying that from up here all the way down here to this bottom car, this is 40 meters. Okay? Now please answer the questions accordingly. This is where I'd like you to pause and try this problem yourself. Okay, so now that you've tried the problem, I'm going to start going over it. Feel free again to pause as we go if you would like. What is the length of the radius of the Ferris wheel? So if the whole thing is 40, half of 40 is going to be 20. So the radius is 20 meters. Okay? Because remember, the diameter is the whole thing. The radius goes from here to here. So that's half of it. What is the length of the diameter of the Ferris wheel? Well, the diameter we found, that was 40 meters. That's what they gave us from one end to the other. Okay. A car travels one time around the Ferris wheel, so it goes all the way around. Starts at the bottom, goes all the way around to the bottom again. How many meters did it travel? So they're talking about, let's say this car goes, and comes back to where it starts. So you get to go around the Ferris wheel once. That would be circumference there. And I'm going to use circumference equals pi times the diameter, because the diameter is all the way through. I don't have any extras to do there. So I'm going to go 3.14 for pi times my diameter was 40. Okay, we put that in our calculator. And that should give us about 125.6 meters around. So that's where the Ferris wheel travels. On another Ferris wheel, so we're not talking this picture, a car will travel 100.48 meters to go once around the wheel. What is the height from the top of the car to the bottom? Remember, height from top to bottom is your diameter there. So here we're looking for diameter. Okay. Well, we're looking for diameter. We've talked about this a little bit. We did a little bit differently. Well, first let's plug in what we have. We know circumference. We'll do circumference is equal pi to diameter. This is circumference. That's 100.48 is equal to, and we got 3.14 times d. Okay, we're looking for d. That's times. Get rid of times. We do the opposite. We divide. you could use our new thought to that. So diameter is going to be equal to 32 meters in this one, because you're going to do 100.48 divided by 3.14. Okay. Awesome. You were able to put that into an application problem. A lot of your practice problems on the next couple of pages, when I say that there's pictures, there's not that many. They are going to look more like this. So let's take a look at that. Okay. So my suggestion first would be to start with your formulas. We have C equal to pi times the diameter. Or we can use C is equal to 2 times pi times the radius. Again, you have to decide which one you're going to use depending on what you have. My suggestion would be to go through your page first, decide what they are labeled. Okay, so on this page, if you take a look at these, take a look at number 2. This is the radius. So I'm going to use C is equal to 2 pi r, which means I'm going to do 2 times 3.14 times my radius, which is 7, which is going to give me, when I plug in, 43.96, and that's going to be yards. And that's what we're looking for. That's our answer. Okay, we look at another page, another problem here. So I'll just pick one on this page. We'll just pick this one over here on the right. So this is the diameter, because the diameter goes all the way through. Radius is only half. So C equals pi times diameter. So C equals 3.14 times 22. So C is equal to 69.08, and this is going to be miles. And you are done there. Okay, you have an answer bank, so please feel free to use that and cross those off as you go.